Library Choice YouTube channel. Today's class we'll learn how to make this multiple keyhole neckline. So we'll be learning how to make this and also turn it neatly without using a bias. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned till the end of this tutorial. Thank you. To make this multiple keyhole neckline, I already have my basic bodies. This is my chest line, my armhole. I'm working with a neck width of 3 inches by depth of 3 inches, and this is my dart. So this is just a bodice with a regular waist dart. You can also work with a bustier, but if you're working with a bustier, it's advisable that you work with an armhole princess dart bustier because of the keyhole that you want to be placing on the neckline area. So you don't want anything that will stress the keyhole neckline for you. So now I have cut this out on my fabric. This is my fabric and this is the lining. So I'm just going to set it out and use this paper to form the keyholes that we want. So this is going to be visible with a paper. So the first thing you need to do is to determine the depth of your keyhole. Remember I said I already work with 3 inches depth for my basic neckline, so you should bear that in mind. So for me, I think my neck depth, I want it to be around 6 inches. Okay, so that's 3 inches plus the 3 inches that I already have. So now these 3 inches that I'm adding, I want it to be uniform. So to do that, I'm just going to place my tape all around the neckline and then mark the 3 inches all around. So after marking your 3 inches all around, the next thing you're going to do is to connect them together. So you can use a curve for this, but because my dots are close together, I'm going to be using my free hand to do that. So now I know that I'm going to be placing those keyholes on this point. So I want to put 5 keyhole on this neckline, and I want it to be in form of an oval shape. This is a fabric, a pattern folded into 2, so which means I'm going to be having 2.5 here and then 2.5 here to make the 5 keyholes that I want. So you can have more than 5 if you want, but I want to place 5 on mine, so I'm going to be distributing it like that. So to make my keyhole, it's going to be an oval shaped keyhole. So it depends on, you can draw it directly on your pattern, or you can just cut out a template so that you use that to draw out your keyhole for you to have something uniform. So if you're going to be cutting out a template, I'm just going to bring an extra paper like this, and then for it to be uniform, to occupy this space, remember this space was 3 inches, so I'm going to put the paper on fold and then I'm going to mark out the length, which is 3 inches. So after marking out this length, now I'm going to cut that small paper out and then decide on how wide I want my keyhole to be. Okay, so this is 3 inches, and like I said, it's going to be an oval shape. So now, which means the upper part here, the neckline area, is going to be tiny, while this part is going to be wide. So the width of this part now, for me, you can make it up to 1 inch. Remember, if it's 1 inch, this is on fold. By the time you open it out, the base is going to be around 2 inches wide. So if you want it to be around 1.5 inches wide, you mark 0.75, and if you want 1, which I think is small, you mark half an inch. So I think I'm just going to be marking around 0.75 on the base. Okay, so my 0.75 stops here, and then you're going to, you can use a curve for this, or you use your free hand as well. So you just make it form that oval shape, like the shape of a egg. Okay, so I'm just going to try to use my ruler to get this point, and then I'm going to blend this in with my free hand. So whatever shape it is that you want, that's what you need to form. So now, cutting out with my scissors, I'm going to reshape this to what I want exactly. Okay, so you can see what I finally came up with. So by the time you open it out, this is what the shape looks like, just like an oval shape, and it's not too wide. So the base area is going to be around 1.5 inches by the time I open it out, so you can see. So if you want yours to be wider than this, you just need to increase it to maybe 1 inch on fold, and by the time you open it out, it's going to be around 2 inches. So now that I have my template, I'm going to place that on this neckline part, and then I'm going to use it. So you can see that it fits my 3 inches length perfectly. So for the first one, remember I said 2.5 on both sides, so because of the half, I'll still put this on fold for the center part, and then this fold point, you have to make it match up with the fold point that you have on the center fold of your neckline. So after placing it like this, now I'm going to bring in my marker and then mark out this shape that I have. Okay, so that's going to be the first one. Okay, so for the subsequent ones, the half of the 2.5 is taken care of. So now I have two of my keyholes to place. So for the subsequent one, I'm going to open out the pattern completely like this, and then you decide how much intervals you want between each of them. So now I've placed it now, and then I'm going to use my tape to check. So I'm going to measure around 1 inch interval space between them, and then I'm going to draw this out again. So using a template will just assure you of having something uniform all around. Okay, so now after drawing the second one like this, I'm going to remove it and mark another 1 inch, and then place the template again. So after drawing out this template, what you need to do now is to take your tracing wheel, and then you use your tracing wheel to trace this out on the other side. Remember, we only have this 2.5 pattern on one side, so we need the other 2.5 to make this 5 keyhole. So now I'm going to bring in my tracing wheel and then trace out this oval shape that I have on the other side. So this is what I have now, and this is my tracing wheel here. So 1, 2.5. I'm going to trace it out so that I can have it on this side as well. So I have marked it now and then traced it on the other side. So when you open it up, you can see that our keyhole neckline now is complete, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So before I cut this out, I'm going to cut this out. Before I cut it out, I want to have this base as well, so that it's going to guide me on how I'm going to cut this. So I'm just going to fold this again, and I can see it, and then I'm going to trace that out. Okay, so this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out this multiple keyhole. So after cutting it out, I'm going to trace out this neckline on a fresh paper and keep it aside. This is going to help when I don't need this anymore. I've already cut out my fabric, so I'm just going to use it to trace out this that I have. This is going to help me when I want to pipe the neckline later. So I'm just going to cut it and keep. Then we'll go ahead and sew this. Okay, so I have gone ahead to add interfacing on the neckline area. So you can add it to the whole dress, but I don't have so much, so I'm adding it to the part where my keyhole is going to be. So now I did this on my lining and my main fabric, and then I'm laying them against each other, right side facing right side. So after laying it like this, the multiple keyhole that I did on my paper, I'm going to be placing it on that part, and then I'll pin it down. So after pinning it down, what I'm going to do now is to go ahead now and then sew on these lines that I have. Okay, I'm just going to sew all around on this line that I have. Then I'll bring it back to show us how we are going to turn this. Okay, so I have gone ahead to sew it, and then you just sew like you sew on your neckline, enter into your multiple keyhole, then you come out and sew again, enter into the multiple keyhole. So that's how you keep sewing it like that. So now you leave small space here for cutting. So after sewing it, I'm going to turn it like this now, and then I'll start to cut. So when you are cutting, you just cut around the line that you have there. If you can cut very close, you cut it very close, but if you cannot, you just cut and then you will notch the excess that you have later. Remember, this is a completely curved part, and you need it to be lined to be able to turn it well. So now I've cut this out. I'm going to move to the next one now, and then I'm going to cut round it. So this is how you're going to cut everything out, and then we're going to remove our pins and then we'll turn it out. So I'm cutting it like this. Like I said, if you feel that this space is too big, all you just need to do is to notch around it carefully. So after cutting through it now, I'm going to remove my pins and then I'll turn it out. So before I turn it, I'm just going to remove the paper that I have here. So you just carefully remove all the paper around your seam line like this. It's not difficult. So after removing the papers now, you are going to go ahead and then turn it out. So I'm done removing the papers. Now I'm just going to pick it now and then turn it out one after the other. So you just do this gently. I have a paper stay there, so it's making it a bit stiff, but I'm just going to take my time and then turn out the keyhole. So you can use your scissors to just pick everything out so that it can come out really nice, just the way you want it. So this is how you turn everything. Okay, so I have gone ahead to turn my neckline, and this is what it looks like. You can see that it is neatly finished both in and out. And on the neckline area, remember when I was sewing it, I will sew like this and then to the neckline. So I have also turned the neckline, and you can see that the neckline is neatly finished. So if your neckline is not turned yet, remember I said we should cut out this template of our neckline when we're cutting the keyhole. So now that your necklines are separate because of the spaces here, what you just need to do now is to place it on this template that you have, and then you arrange it well so that you have your actual neckline back. So once you have your actual neckline, what you just need to do now is to take your sewing machine and then you sew or knit round like this together with the paper. So the paper is going to make everything stay together. So after sewing it round together with the paper, you use your bias to turn your neckline neatly, and then you can now detach the paper. But for me, I have already turned out my neckline, so I'm just going to be finishing it with my needle and thread neatly. So you can see I have done one, and you can see how neat this is. So there are several ways you can do this. If you can just sew it a bit like this, you can also do that, but I want to show us how we can pass maybe a bead or whatever it is in between this neckline. So now I'm going to put my needle through the lining part so that the knotted part is not going to show outwards. So now after picking it, I'm going to take it to the edge like this. Okay, sorry, my needle is quite big, so you can use a smaller needle for this. So now after taking it like this, what you just need to do now is to pick the other one on this other side as well. On the seam, you can see that we already have a seam that we use to join the lining. So now in order for it to be neat, I'm just going to go through the seam that I already have there, and then I'm going to bring it out. So after bringing it out now, I'm going to pick this now and then I'll tie it. So you can either do it like this, or you can also place a bead in between it. So you tie it very neatly and firm so that your neckline can be joined together. So this is if you don't want to sew with your sewing machine. So now after tying it, you can see what I have, that our neckline is neatly finished. I'm just going to make sure to secure it very well before cutting off the thread. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the next neckline now, and then I'll show us how we can attach maybe a bead or whatever it is that you wish to beautify this. So I've cut this out now. I'm going to knot it again, and then just like I did for the first one, I'm going to pass my needle and thread through that space I have in between. If you have a bead, I have a big bead, so if you have a smaller bead, you should also work with, but this is quite big, but I'm going to manage it. So after placing like this, I'm going to put my needle through the bead, and then I'm going to bring it out from the other side as well. Okay, so now because there is a bead in between, I'm not going to tie it. So after placing your bead in between it, you knot it somewhere here, and then after placing it like this again, here again, I'm going to pass my needle multiple times, and then I'll make sure to knot it so that everything can be tight and nice. So this is how you finish it. So now you can see the bead that I have applied in between this. I'm just going to make sure to tie it. So I'm going to go ahead now and do the same for all of this, so that I can take it to the mannequin to see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the neckline looks like. You just need to sew your back, and then this is what we have. So this is, you can see how I just tagged it. You can also sew it with your machine, and then I applied the beads on the middle part only. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed this, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.